then you
resonates with
were,
you, but
oh yeah, that's very much what I've been dedicating my life to for the last couple decades. Had a
nice.
couple of had a couple of goes at it, iterations, I guess as they would be called,
Yeah, for sure.
and yeah, we just sold a piece of property that we had up in Mendocino that I shared with like 16 other families, uh,
Wow.
like 80 acres, which we had
Wow.
15 years, I guess, which was a nice little stint, and um, had a like fruit orchard on it, a big redwood barn. It was kind of could have been a good place for something like this,
Yeah.
but just politics.
Mm.
The nobody lived there. It was kind of that's the issue. I think it was more of an experiment. In fact, we kind of framed it as an experiment, which might have been the issue. Kind of framed
Right.
a temporary thing,
Right.
but a lot of learnings came out of
Um,
that. And I hear you've been playing around with or you've been playing with the idea of getting a mud. What are those things called? The 3D print.
Mudbot.
Is that right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been talking with Mudbots, is the sales company or the distributor or whatever, the manufacturer of them. There's a handful of them that are accessible. Mudbot seems to be the one that's most engaging as far as being able to kind of get a hold of somebody and talk to some people. And they're in Utah. And I've talked to their sales person. I think his name is Aaron, if I'm recalling. And he basically says next step is sign some NDAs, get a structural engineer and your team, and let's hop on a conference call like this. And where I'm at is I'm trying to get my numbers right so that I can just purchase a printer. They're about 400 grand, and they can go up to $1 million, depending if you want all the bells and whistles and all of the, there's a batch plant. There's just stuff that they sell because they've been printing for a while, and they kind of have seen you might want this and you might want that and you might want this nozzle and you might want that. And so I've just been educating myself as much as I can. I have a little 3D printer at my house, so that's my only real reference. In California, there's been one permitted house, but really it's just being able to eliminate weeks to months of a project and the manpower needed, to build. So it's time and money, basically, and materials cost too. So if it's just cement, sand, and water. I mean, it's
Interesting. Yeah, we were
and
videos the other day.
well, what I'm stoked on is the adaptability of it. I feel, I attended a hempcrete seminar a couple of years ago where they were building a house out of hemp, and it's same thing, herd from hemp and water and lime. So if the pump was able to handle that, I mean, shit, that covers insulation also, and you're just eliminating so many trades. So the ingenuity and possibilities for being able to do so much more, I think, getting in now and printing and quickly. That's the thing, It's like we don't want to wait a year to have a structure, because I'm sure, as you know, if you had 80 acres and nobody's living there, why was no one living there? Probably because you had to live up there and build, right? I mean, you had to spend a bunch of time trying to build. So if you can
Yeah.
speed it up a little bit, I think it helps. I'm not, I am a tech kind of brain, but I'm sort of anti-tech kind of human. So it's hard for me to merge the two. But my dad was a computer engineer back in, the binary code type programmer. He's a general contractor, so it's in my family, and I'm just trying to transform the energy of the technology world into a beneficial energy rather than thinking of it as something negative. We can literally streamline building so that we can free up our minds for more productive things that need attention, rather than putting a bunch of nails in a piece of plywood on a for shear. Like, yo, dude, the printer's printing. Did anybody check on it in the last hour? Like one time. So
Oh,
I just think, you know what I'm saying, Hristiyan. It's
yeah, I know. I know what you're
well, and
saying.
you spend so much time on the job site. So what I'm looking at with the 3D printer is having a community dev team with the printer, having a custom, and then having just like call it affordable housing, sort of like, so you have like a urban, a rural, and a custom line for printing structures. That's to speed up what needs to happen, because I think, Gregory, aren't you in Costa Rica, or you have some Costa Rica stuff going on, or
Well, so,
Yeah,
by the way, so Gregory, I haven't really told Brian about. I mean, I've mentioned that there's this land in Colorado, but I haven't broken down to him the whole festival vision and all that. So,
okay.
which is why I wanted to talk and see.
Yeah, I have a budding regenerative contracting company down in Costa Rica. So it's a
nice.
co-op, and we specialize in building with bamboo and doing food forests and edible landscaping.
Wow.
And so we've been doing that for other people, mostly,
Mm-hmm.
actually a lot of communities, like people who are moving down there to kind of prepare for Armageddon. Actually, a lot of the people we work with,
Right.
and we're kind of pivoting a bit right now. We're like really interested in getting a piece of property and turning it into a kind of a regenerative living school of sorts.
I love that. Yeah.
And then, as Hristiyan just mentioned, there's another piece of property that in Colorado that a friend owns. Her name's Melissa. Well, I mean, owns loosely. I mean, she she has the mortgage, and the similar model is like what we've been like talking about, is creating a kind of 3-prong model where there's a tiny house village, because that seems to have gone mainstream at this point. People understand tiny house, and it's no longer this fringe concept. Tiny house village with everything that goes with that, common areas, maybe some domes. Actually, Christian and I were talking about like what's the lowest hanging fruit on this? Like, what's the minimal viable product? And then you came up as this idea of printing the houses.
Yeah.
So that'd be one side of it, and then the other prong is like a maker's space, like an artisanal arts or artisanal business incubator of sorts. So a place like a probably a big warehouse that we can get, maybe a prefab warehouse, or maybe it's a printed warehouse, where artisans can set up all their tools and maybe share tools, and there could be also school there. Like maybe part of the artisans living and working there is that they teach a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then the third prong of that is an event space. So basically a festival. She has 40 acres. It's perfect for a festival. There's like 2 big ponds for swimming, and it's got these crazy rock formations you can like hang out in, and beautiful views of the mountains in the distance. And that was part of it too, is to kind of basically have the kind of the concept being Festiville. It's I think many of us have gone to festivals and then come back and being like, how can I have this in my daily life?
All right.
And
How can I keep living?
I think that conversation has probably happened millions of times. And that's what this is kind of coming at. Really focusing on creativity And then the foundation of it, of course, being an earth trust, so that the earth is the primary beneficiary, which in and of itself, I think, is somewhat revolutionary. Instead of us being owners of land, we actually kind of are stewards or trustees of the land.
Yeah, man, I'm all about it. So that's kind of, I've been a general. I got introduced to having some money, and it's cool to have choices and be able to go places and do stuff, but I'd much rather like invest in, I think, Gregory, you have kids. I don't know, Christian, I don't think you have kids, do you, Christian? But
No.
it's the next generation, like what are we doing for our
Yeah,
kids?
absolutely. I mean, that's another side project I'm doing with my daughter. She's 12,
Yeah.
and I've just been disillusioned with all the schools. I mean, she's been in a Waldorf school up until now, and that's been great. I actually had a lot of appreciation and respect for Waldorf.
Yeah.
And she's now at the age where I want her to give her more autonomy and more. I want her to start trusting herself and having more agency. And there's I can't find any schools that actually give agency to their kids. It's all about obeying. Even the fancy, expensive. And there is one school in San Francisco, the Brightworks, that does like project-based learning. So they have some of it, but then their politics are just, I don't know. So anyway, so I've started teaching, and we're creating we have a school that all the parents put together, and
Nice.
and I'm like gearing up for like taking it to the next level for next year, and it's really about giving the kids more and more control over their life and making decisions and trusting their decisions, and actually, instead of being evaluated outside of themselves, being self-evaluated,
Right.
and all of that stuff. And I think that kind of, for me, in a way, that the artisanal makers space isn't just for the adults; it's for the kids. I mean, it's this learning environment where hands-on, experiential, project-based learning. I think that is probably the core of most communities, right? The kids,
Absolutely.
the next generation.
Absolutely. So would you call it like a homeschool right now, ish? I mean,
What we're doing, we're literally a homeschool. We call ourselves the North Bay Homeschool Collective.
Nice. That's badass.
Nice. That is badass. Gregory's kind of badass like that.
So this printer thing, can you use, like, could you do Adobe with it? I mean, this thing is amazing. I mean, Christian and I were looking at the videos the other day. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, I've seen these before, but I've never seen, like, I didn't realize it was so compact, and you can break it down and put it in the back of a couple of pickups, and then there's just see this the speed of it doing its thing, and like the fact that you can pretty much, the imagination is just the limit. I mean, if it's a 3D printer, you can just, I love how you can just do curves and you can get really intricate. We saw one video where there was someone who actually understood the capacity of it. It wasn't just doing a box. They were like putting in a fireplace.
Domes. So that's why I'm trying to get my hands on one. But I called the people and I was like, what's your smallest model? What's your cheapest thing? They're like, well, the cheapest one's $275, and you can't really print a house with the 15 by 15. It's all about the gantry. So yeah, it's badass. That's where I don't know. The pump is kind of their proprietary shit, right? Everybody's got the XYZ sort of CNC capabilities, but the pump is handling the materials. So, I mean, it's basically raw materials to a hopper, like you would be mixing stucco or something, or and then from that hopper, it's taking it into the pump, which is pumping through the hose, which is the other issue that I hear a ton with all of my research on the 3D printing of homes, is the hose management. So I guess it'll knock down your walls if you don't have it, it's carrying a bunch of heavy shit through it. So if it starts to sag when it's moving, it'll knock down the walls. So it's still construction. It's not some magic thing, but like you said, the amount of design restrictions that are put on with trying to build with carpentry, and the amount of time it would take to build curves, the domes. I've been studying this Egyptian guy with his sacred geometry type spaces and his ability. So why I want the printer also is to build healing homes. That's like my whole, the shape, the resonance of the angles,
Right.
the dimensions, the proportionalities. Like there's a shit ton of information that we've lost all that info, and I'm just like tapping into it now. So I'm super stoked. I got a foundational course in February with this dude in Virginia. So it's
For
super.
the architectural stuff.
Yeah, it's called biogeometry. So it's the
Oh,
measurements
nice. Oh
of
my God.
the.
Send me the info. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's super super rad. So biogeometry,
And have these guys
Abraham.
ever done anything other, like, have they done things like hempcrete with these things, or Adobe, or do you
Well,
know
there's
if they've
different
experimented with
machines.
those things?
There's somebody in Italy that is digging with. I think Christian, you sent me a link to that too. I've gotten that link from like 10 people, but they're digging the earth right out of the area they're
Where are you
building,
building the house? Oh,
and they're using that earth, combining it with straw or hemp or grass, whatever, some sort of thing, and it's pumping and it's printing, and it's basically I would consider it like a cob house. It's kind of a cob style.
What was
But
that?
yeah,
I did see a picture of a dome that I think was printed with mud, with like some kind of
yeah,
Adobe thing. Is that what was
there's
it a
that
dome?
too. So yeah, the only reason that I've really gone with Mudbots, like I said, is because I've talked to them. They're accessible. They're not on a huge uh, like barrier. There's not a big barrier. So I don't get a ton of information out of them. They ask me if I have questions, and then I've had a couple questions. But watching all of their videos, they have so many videos also about their system that it answers a lot of questions. So I do believe there is potential for an alternative material rather than cement and sand and water. I don't know if they're doing that. I don't know if their machine. When I was doing the hempcrete class, the guy was saying that in Amsterdam they're working on a hose system because the hose would get clogged. So you kind of need a spiral, a gyration through the hose to keep the material moving. So he said somebody was working on that, and that was, I don't know, three years ago. So
oh
I've
wow.
thought about reaching out to that guy. His name is Greg Flavel. He lives down in the LA area, and he was getting college grants and such to work on sort of affordable housing or alternative housing for using hempcrete as the. But hempcrete it wasn't that structural,
Yeah,
um,
that was yeah.
and
If we work in
it was very laborious, man. Very
Yeah,
laborious.
yeah. I've seen the workshops. And I was like, "Ooh, that looks like a lot." Are these? You've probably seen these guys using the, what do they call that? Foamcrete or
Yeah, the aircrete.
aircrete? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And they make
Yeah, I've seen.
domes
Yeah,
out of it. But again, it's the same thing. It looks fucking crazy labor intensive. I mean, it's like cutting
yeah,
out each of those blocks, and also not super. I mean, it just seems like a lot of work. I mean, this 3D printer thing seems incredible, especially if we
yeah.
can make it a little bit more eco-friendly. Like if we could do it with air. I mean, it sounds like some people have figured that piece out. That if we could literally do it with mud and then somehow surface it to make it like waterproof.
Yep.
And then
That's
one thing that
that's
I've been playing around with, I literally like 2 days ago was experimenting with. I have this. So there's this. Have you heard about magnesium oxide as a cement, like magnesium phosphates, cements?
no.
So there's this cement that it's actually the cement that the Romans and the Great Wall of China was built with,
Wow.
and it used to be widely used kind of at the turn of the century.
Yep.
And it was kind of like VHS and beta, it was like the
Yep.
beta better,
Yep.
but like for whatever reason, normal
Marketing.
cement took off, marketing, yeah. But this stuff is fundamentally different than cement in that it has all these remarkable qualities. One of them is that it binds to things. It like kind of molecularly binds to almost anything. In fact,
Wow.
I have a piece right here I can show you. You see this? So this is a piece of plywood, and that's one side, and so it's just poured on there. And you'd have to chisel that thing off, and you would probably take the wood with it. It's like almost like epoxy. Whereas if you did that with cement, you would just hit it and it would pop right off.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, they call it it's almost like a ceramic, a coal-fired ceramic. The other property it has, which is really unique, is that it has this really high reflection ratio. So it reflects heat back to the point where the government's been experimenting with isolating plutonium waste. And how they typically isolate plutonium waste is they bury it in a mountain, and they use 6 feet of high density concrete to keep the radiation from coming out. And they apparently, when I read that they can use 3 inches of this stuff instead of 6 feet of concrete.
Wow.
So it has this kind of it's not like an R factor, right? So it's not insulation. It's more like the concept of a space blanket, very thin.
Yeah.
But it just reflects the heat back in or out, depending on. And it's 4 times the strength of concrete. So it's about 4 times the cost. Like a bag of this is 4 times more than concrete, but it's also 4 times the strength. So you can use a lot less. And what I've been playing around with is spraying it onto burlap or some kind of fiber, because it bonds to stuff like that. You can literally put wood chips in this stuff, like as an aggregate. And it'll strengthen it. Whereas if you put wood chips in concrete, you're weakening it.
Right.
So anyway, that's something that could be. When I was thinking about when I was seeing the walls there, it's almost like I could see the walls being done with mud, and then maybe the roof was like more of a skin architecture. I was even thinking bamboo, because bamboo is really cool. You can make like a tent-like thing, and if we figure out a way of spraying on the magnesium oxide onto it. It could be a nice little combo.
Well, that sounds badass. I do know that Mudbots has some proprietary blends that they don't talk about because they're up there. They're getting like 50,000 psi concrete. Hristiyan, I don't know if you got slump tests.
Jesus Christ, that's insane.
2,500 psi.
2,500 is
what
it's
we
required
need for a house in California to pass code. So they're literally talking about eliminate
20 times
rebar.
stronger.
Like no rebar, no. So, I mean, I'm looking at, like you're saying, a 2-inch thick wall poured out of this machine that is the structure. It's like bulletproof, bomb-proof, just if it's got that magnesium properties, the reflective. So you're spending, it just is a no-brainer. I mean, and that's what I mean. The amount of ingenuity and innovation that's available with these 3D printers, it's nonstop. I mean, it's
right. I mean, it's incredible. So I have a couple of friends who've actually started making domes out of this stuff. I think I know the only 2 people on the planet who are actually using magnesium oxide to make domes for some reason. And one of them lives down the street here outside of Fairfax. And the other one's in Nevada City. And one of them they actually gone into production, and they're selling these domes. And the big issue they're coming up against is zoning. Like they actually sold a bunch of these things. They sold like 15 or 20 of them, and they end up getting about half of them returned because they were unable. The people who bought them were unable to get it past the zoning process, the permitting.
Well, I've got real estate agent, Kamala. She's my controller also for my company, and she's SB9 for California. She's dialed on all of that shit and has her people. We have some ins with like Napa County, some zoning people with them. And we also just got introduced to some pretty heavy hitter developers out of the city who are selling a prefab. It's called Periscope. They're, conventional prefab ADUs. They're pricing them out at like $1,000 a square foot, but they're saying 9 months.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they're nice. They're high end. They're for people
That's a lot of money.
yeah, that want to spend that money. So they're I don't know where I was going with that, but she's got the inside scoop. She just took a class on all the zoning shit because I know SB9 opened up in California a bunch of stuff. So if your friends are printing domes and selling them, it's feasible. These guys are saying it's going to take 9 months from permit to turnkey for their Periscope is what it's called. Their ADU,
which is not even enough.
Right. Yeah.
So can I
Go ahead.
can I talk big picture for a second?
Sure. Yes, please.
So what I'm seeing here is like unlimited possibility in so many ways. So this Gregory just talked to you about this one property. We're working with this woman that owns the property, that she shares the vision. She's looking for her people to help her bring it to life because she doesn't have the resources and human resources and financial resources and all that.
Yeah.
And there's this vision of and basically an eco village of a work, play, live.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many people around the world that are happening. Literally every day I'm hearing about more and more people. Yesterday, I talked to Maya Gregory. She said her boyfriend just bought 30 acres and wants to build like a little thing. Last night had dinner with a friend of mine and she's like, oh, my buddy just bought 15 acres up and he's looking for help to develop it. My friends in Maui, they were like, oh, wait, there's this community here that they're looking to develop the same vision.
Yeah.
So I think almost like there's like we can build a development business or we'll go and develop these eco villages around the world. And if we have the equipment, if we have like we could go and build a new earth, literally a new way of living where we build these, and each environment's gonna, each community, each environment is gonna be a little different, right? Like Melissa, she owns the land in Colorado. She was event production. She's helped put together a lot of festivals. So she wants to build festival, but we could build a village that's more around spirituality or more around exercise or more. And the people are starving for this, but people keep buying these lands, and they're like Gregory did, right? Like he bought these 80 acres 15 years ago, and they're like trying to scramble the community and the people to get it together. And if there's people like us who are like, okay, well, we'll help you bring this to life, and then connect all these. The ultimate vision for me, at least, is that all these eco villages around the world are all connected with each other. And as Gregory, what'd you call it? Internation, where they could become one community. With crypto, they can. So this very large picture, but I'm saying we're sitting here on a solid business plan, business idea of doing something that's really rewarding and fulfilling. That's kind of why I wanted us to get together and talk. And then along the way, we can have fun and figure out more and more creative ways to make this happen.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to insert that in.
Well, I think your soil DAO.
That was
the collective, the NFT approach. I don't know much about it, but the microeconomy is what I'm looking at too. Is how can these be self-sustaining in a way where you're producing your food, perhaps you're growing the textiles you need for clothing, you have the housing, and then you have the maker space where you have woodworkers or metalworkers or whatever that are. Right. So at a point, you're sort of eliminating the need for outside resources and money, right? Would you say that's kind of the goal?
Yes, step outside of this broken
yeah,
system.
sovereign nations within nations that are like self-sufficient and.
I just got introduced to Ubuntu. Have you guys heard of Ubuntu?
Yeah.
Open.
I don't know anything about it, but I was talking to somebody and they were like, "This sounds like Ubuntu." And I was like, "I don't know what Ubuntu is," so I just got some.
Ubuntu. I mean, maybe I'm thinking of something else. But there's a woman who does
I don't know
she does workshops and stuff on everything from alternatives education and this might be the same person or same group.
Well, this guy's name is Michael Tellinger, and he was trying to become the president, I think, of South Africa or something in South Africa.
Okay.
And it's basically a world without money. I'm looking at one-liners here. It's a movement. It's a small town philosophy and action plan where it's a sort of like you said, your internation connectivity. Gregory, I hope you don't mind. I've used that word a couple times, but I've sourced you. I've said a friend of mine uses this word called internation. So, but a collective community where
Gregory is the word wizard.
you pull in all these words, right? Like that people have stigma towards, you got a timeshare or Airbnb model or millennial travel network where you can drop in and camp places and you have access to whatever you need, showers and kitchens and things, but you basically sign up. I've been trying, so I pitched this idea to a VC headhunter, and she was like, "I'm in full alignment with you. This is a hot topic right now. A lot of people." I talked to my drummer in my band, and he's like, "My buddy up in Willits is trying to buy a 3D printer right now. He's got so many acres, and he's trying to do the same thing." And there's another.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've heard of Abuela Gardens up near Yuba. They have the same thing going there too. They're trying to buy a 3D printer. I'm like, what the fuck? These guys in our state, a couple hour drive away, are
Right.
thinking the same thing. So, trying to formulate, what I see as the hurdle is always money, right? So if you're getting investment, how do you get your return on the investment because I said that to the lady. I said, "Listen, what if money is not the object here?" And she said, "Well, you got to figure out how to return your investment to whoever's putting in their money." Or that was her philosophy. But when I look at Soil DAO, it's that sort of approach to me seems more in line with the energy that we're trying to bring to these communities versus like, "Hey, I got 20 million from this VC Tesla engineer, and he wants 25 million in 5 years back," or something. I don't know what the reward is for
Right.
people if they have a bunch of money and they want to be. So you either look at signing up for memberships, and then it comes back to money again. But how do you get to that point of an ownership? So whether it's a trust, like I don't remember your other friend Christian, who's the lawyer,
Bradley.
yeah, Bradley. If we go that route, how does everybody feel? Putting in, because eventually the ego is gonna raise its pokey little nose and say, "What the fuck, man? I've been building all these houses. I want to be able to do, I want to grow 40 plants of ganja." And somebody's going to say, "No, you can't." And, so how does it work? How can it be structured immediately with the version of adaptability so that people feel like what they're getting is what they want? I mean, that's the trick, right?
Yeah.
My thought is almost like a transition. The soda I was really pushing to go really fast because I knew the crypto market is coming to a downfall, and it's probably in another 2 years will come back up. But it's really hard to get money through crypto right now. But I think we need some initial funds where people like us, I mean, Gregory and I are ready to do this full time. Like I'm ready to just scrap everything else. I'm divorced, single, no kids. I'm ready to do this full time.
Yeah.
But I also need to buy food, right? And be able to do this. So I think some initial fund to build all these infrastructures, to build maybe the first place, to build this crypto, build this DAO and all that, and pay the money, the engineers, all the stuff to build the infrastructure that it could actually start growing on its own, where it doesn't need outside funds. So I think initially we're gonna need some money. And I think we can easily get money if we have a clear business plan where we outline all these things, where it's this is how much money we need, this is how you're going to get your return, this is how we're thinking of making money. And if we outline that clearly, I think people will be throwing money at us.
Yeah, and Brian makes a good point, though. I mean, I think that, I was literally thinking about this morning. I was meditating. It just came to me. I was like, you know what? I think this needs to be a not-for-profit, actually. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we don't get paid. I mean, whoever's. Yeah. It doesn't mean there's not profits. It just means that it's not about making profits. It's not because a for-profit business is only, people only are interested in investing in a for-profit business if it has a linear growth trajectory, which is insane. It's just complete insanity that we're trying to have linear growth on a finite planet. And so I really got clear this morning. I was like, this needs to be a not-for-profit. Sierra Club's a not-for-profit. These guys are driving around in Rolls Royces. Land Rovers, and they got big houses. It's not like we can't get paid in that process, but it gets clear. I think also it'll attract certain types of investors. It'll be like, you know what? Well, a normal person who's just about the money is not, they say not for profit, you're going to turn them off immediately. And again, it's not a non-profit, which is a 501c3, which is a trust or something, or PMA.
A B Corp, like that sort of philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. A B Corp or something like that. But you're right, Christian. I think that right now it's let's just bust out a business plan. And there's two ways we keep on going back and forth on this. It could be I don't know. I think doing the moonshot thing is the way to deal with this. Is do the big and bold, and it's not necessarily even one company. I think my sense is those three things we just talked about: the tiny house village, the makerspace, artisanal arts incubator, and the event thing are actually three different entities, and there may be overlap, people working on different ones, but and then just really pitch each one of those as a separate entity and get funding for each of those. But pitch it within the package of, this isn't just a standalone thing. It's being supported by these other elements. And then have an onboarding process. At first, Christian, you keep on coming to all these people who have land. Even when you were over here for dinner, our mutual friends, Brian and Frest, I was like, oh my God, they have land. And I was starting to get overwhelmed. I'm like, wait a minute, let's just focus on one. And I do think that probably is smart for us to actually put most of our energy into one prototype that actually is the demonstration thing. At the same time, gearing up, do that with the mindset of, okay, we are village builders. Literally, that's another thing that came to me in the morning. I was like, village builders.
That's a good name.
Yeah, seriously, we should see if that's available as a URL. Village builders, and it's everything A to Z. We'll train you in group decision making, with dynamic governance. We will train you in how to actually create a trust and actually get your land, get the loyal title of your land, so you're not beholden to all the crazy restrictions. Relationship stuff. Yeah, we could teach tantric rope bondage for anybody. That's kind of the real high end package. But
yeah, VIP baby, VIP,
VIP, right? But it's an A to Z solution for people who have land and they've had this vision of living in community and they don't know the first step of how to do it, and they need someone to hold their hands, and we step in. We do that for a fee. But first, I think doing one well, and I like the idea that Melissa had of actually having. She's talking about having the tiny house village have a little bit of each, a bunch of different construction types in there. So that's like an example of like what's possible. It's almost like a showcase for green building, which would make it a destination too, in a way. Like people would be like, oh, okay, these guys have done the model. So really having that focus. So maybe a few of them are done with the printer, and then some of them are done with cob, and some of them, done with straw bale. And
Well, I love that, and I agree. We should start with the first one, and like let's say if one business, as you're saying, it's the 3D printing. We want this 3D printer to keep working, right? Like, so once we're done building like 10 houses on Melissa's land, we don't want this printer to just sit and collect dust. If we're going to spend $400,000 on it, we're like, let's move to the next one. So start building, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well,
but yes, we should concentrate on making this beautiful model in one, but you understand what I'm saying.
What's interesting is, I think what's interesting about Melissa's land is that that county doesn't have zoning, so you can build anything on there. Like there's no restrictions. I mean, that's my understanding of it. We have to find out, but I think that like we could just go ahead and just build a freaking printed building, and there would be no issue with it. So that makes that's a huge hurdle that is already like not there.
Exactly. So I've always look at water and shit. Obviously, if you don't have restriction, composting toilets work. I've seen them. It's great, but water, right? Well, or spring, or however that's getting collected, and then power generation for what's those are the hardcore utilities, right? The three troublesome when we're here in California trying to build. Up in Sonoma we got one, pretty much Adobe and Associates. They check the septic, and there's only a certain window per year where you can go look at land and do that. So
right,
you're going to follow the rules. That's one style of building and be sort of legit and all of that. Or if you're just going to go off grid and rogue and do whatever the fuck you want. Because that's what the people up in Willits, they're kind of trying to do it. They're just kind of doing the fuck the man type thing, which is cool. I can get down with that. But let's say you wanted some USDA funding that was basically free money for the land or something, like if you have a female business, you can get grant money, but
right,
there's
right, yeah. Oh, that's a good thing for us to look into. Yeah, Melissa being like the spearhead of this.
You know what I mean? So there's different ways to grab free money. With education, you can get Department of Education. There's Department of Energy. I just saw a town outside of LA that got Department of Energy funding. I think they got, I want to say it was $2 million or maybe it was $20 million to build like 10 houses or something. I mean, it was free money.
And to your point, Hristiyan, I think that like we start building one. If we built one up on the land of Colorado, I think we could leverage that by actually doing some press releases and maybe even having some open houses and some events where people can come and actually see it being built, and maybe invite the local television stations and newspapers to come and check it out. And I think from there, I imagine there'll just be a slew of people interested in that I think they'll just line up, my sense. Because it's so awesome when you see the thing working. Like it's just like holy shit, and then the price, right? I mean, you can do it for a fraction of the price of a normal house, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're eliminating time, humans, and resources. And I look at it: how many truck deliveries of lumber are you reducing?
The only thing that comes up, I keep on having this resistance point to me, is the concrete piece. Yeah. And for some reason, I actually think the last time was when I went to Colorado there, we went and visited one of our friends, and he was building something. And he actually told me, I think we had this whole conversation that concrete was like hard to get. there was like this supply shortage of it, and he was having to go like 2 towns over, and like it was almost like this black market thing where it was almost impossible to get.
Sand is the commodity, really, as the aggregate. So that's why I think, like, check this one out. Recycled plastic aggregate. You know, when you can buy recycled plastic, man.
Right.
That's awesome.
So if sand is the hot topic, I mean, let's go fucking get a boat and go out to the trash island and fucking recycle some plastic for the aggregate. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Or wood chips even. I mean.
Yeah, whatever it is, you know, that's why the innovation for the 3D printing. Now, Hristiyan, you know, there's pumps now. I mean, when we pump a foundation, it's kind of like a 3D printer in the effect where the boom comes out and it just drops it wherever it needs to go for that.
But just humans
for that pouring. So, but you have to form everything, you know. So that's
you got to form everything.
That manpower. You're eliminating. So yeah, concrete. I don't believe it's the end all. It's the entry point. It's kind of like the model for these communities. You know, the first one's going to be righteous forever because it's the first one. But as you do more, you know, you
get better and better.
Yeah, you're finding alternatives. We couldn't get the concrete, so we used this, you know, and it worked, you know, and this house has been here for 10 years now, or whatever it is, but the innovation is just at its beginning.
So what's the reinforcement? Are people sticking in rebar as they go along? Like, how's that?
Yeah, right now, because they're getting everything, I would call it, you know, done traditionally. They're printing CMU block walls, basically. So it's still the hollow core. There's an exterior, there's an interior, and then they're filling with insulation, running all their utilities first. But there's a way in the mixture to add, like you were saying, something to make the exterior waterproof. You could literally print one wall and figure out your windows and doors and all the architectural designs. But you could literally, so they're basically printing 2 walls right now, and it's like a CMU block wall. So I don't know if you CMU block, you know, the concrete bricks.
Yep.
Basically. So, and then they have rebar inside of them as needed.
And then how about like domes and stuff? I mean, it seems like domes or some like dome-like forms are like, it's a no-brainer because the roof is the big picture too. I mean, like the roof is kind of the trickiest part because we're doing a bunch of stuff in bamboo down in Costa Rica. Yeah. And then it's all incredibly sustainable because it's all bamboo. And then you get to the roof.
Yeah.
And it's either got to be like we're using metal or we're using plastic. And it's kind of like, oh, shit, we haven't really quite figured out the roof. But I've seen these 3D printed domes, I'm like, well, that's fucking cool because then you don't have the roof issue.
Right. You still have to support it while you pour. I don't know if you've heard of Paolo Soleri. He's down in Arcosanti and Cosanti. He was a serious futurist.
Yeah.
All about
sustainability.
Mm-hmm. So I saw what he poured. He poured these asps, which are concrete arches. And you have to hold up the concrete still some way. So you basically have to form. How he did it was with dirt. So he formed his dirt and then just poured the concrete on the dirt and then dug out the dirt later.
Right.
Still had reinforcement rebar in it, but with the arch, with the dome for concrete, at this point, it's got to be supported.
You can't just print that without something underneath it, huh?
Well, because it's going to collapse.
Material, you know, like you could probably figure out how to do it with plastic. I mean, through a 3D printer or, you know, some.
Well, you know, the other thing about magnesium oxide cement, which is really interesting, which makes it tricky in some circumstances, but I think is an asset in others, is it will cure in like 15 minutes.
Wow.
So, but the trick is, I mean, that can be hard because you don't want it curing in your hose or in your hopper.
Exactly.
So that's why I've been like playing around with spraying the stuff. So like literally this backpack spray I have, it's designed to blow pesticide dust. So you put powder in the back, and then it's designed to do both, actually, to do dust or liquid. And so what I did is I had a pressurized tank, and so I got the liquid on the end. There's a little fan at the end of the nozzle that blows out water, and then it's blowing dust up at that point. So it's mixing the dust and the water right at the mouth of the tube, and then spraying it onto this burlap thing, and then curing. Pretty much.
Did you work out? What happened?
Well, yeah, for a first run, it went pretty good. You know, we were able to coat. I had a piece of burlap. I just put it on the fence, and we just blew it on. I was able to coat it with. I'm just starting with concrete, because it's the same consistency, and the other cement's more expensive. But we were able to do it. The one place where it got a little tricky is like where the dust wasn't. I was kind of having to jump up and down to get the dust to kind of like come up. Like for some reason, the dust isn't mixing and blowing up out enough. But otherwise, it worked pretty freaking good. And my dad was here. He's an engineer, so he had all these ideas of actually, you can only put so much dust in your back. You would have to have a separate hopper. Yeah. And then we were talking about how to blow, how to get that dust up and out.
Yeah, you need to churn.
Yeah.
No.
But that stuff, I even thought, like, if we weren't into this idea of actually saving the planet, like a real good business plan would be to get this magnesium oxide cement, figure out how to coat things, and then go and fireproof houses in California.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Just go on roof. You could start with just the roof, just underneath the roof, like on the edges of the eaves. Apparently that's where most of the fires start, is like on the eaves. Yep. And then on the roof, and you could make billions working fireproofing housing.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The innovation abilities here, it's just where do you want to focus your attention?
Well, exactly. And I think that is the biggest chicken challenge. I think and so for me right now, and Hristiyan recently is getting on board with this too, is like, I really feel that for many levels, Colorado, this property in Colorado, a lot of it because of the fact there's no zoning in there. We can really kind of, like, it's going to make it so much easier that we don't have to fucking get permitting for everything.
Where is it?
It's just south of Grand Junction. There's a town called Paonia, which is where Terrence McKenna came from. A lot of big thinkers came out of Paonia, which is a tiny little town. I mean, it's pretty far out there. It's not really
nice.
It's in the middle of kind of nowhere in Colorado, but in some ways it's the center of Terrence McKenna-like thinking.
Well, one of my business partners for this adventure is in Durango, Colorado right now. He just bought 2 acres.
Oh, nice.
He's trying to, and he lives in a little subdevelopment there, and he's kind of said the same thing. There's lots all around me. Let's just print, go for it. So he's the one who introduced me to the VC lady who lives in Sausalito, the sort of VC headhunter. She, I can't remember her name, but Ilana, she was great. She was she's all on board, down to try to find funding for this idea. I mean, it's the same idea that you guys are harmonious with. So there's people with money that want to support these causes. It's just that business plan. So that's what she said. She gave us 4 things to give her, and it's, business plan, business model, business budget, and return on investment. So how do you monetize it? You got to have somebody paying something, you got to bring in outside resources. So unless somebody just wants to,
to me, that's the priority number 1, to finalize a business plan that we could go get money with. So Gregory is a word wizard, so he's taking it on to have some rough outline in the next 2 weeks, and I guess or by the end of next week, he said. But a
website. I think it's like a really compelling website that just kind of.
Yeah, I love this. Your soil DAO is a model of that, right? I mean, it's basically a business plan, right? I mean, I've seen multiple emails recently, or you know, nonprofits sort of have a business model, right? I mean, it's you guys
A
know. I
roadmap.
don't know.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. I was just
exactly.
thinking
Yeah.
about recycling some of that copy actually, because pretty much the same idea,
Yeah.
really. It's just a slightly different take on it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my brother
So
Josh in Colorado. Yeah, he's on board. He's a professor. He works for Salesforce. He's had his own startups. He's done his own apps. He's, got a family there, his wife and son. And once we hit that community, once he heard the community thing, because I was talking about 3D printing with him, and I just kept running my head against the wall. What the hell do I need a 3D printer for? And when I saw that Department of Energy community that's off the grid, so they basically have their own electrical grid down there. I'll share this stuff with you guys. I think, is this our group text?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I got a lot of shit. So, and I'd love
Yeah.
to
I think
connect with Austin.
that's one of the things.
yeah,
Like us actually seeing what's already out there, I think is really doing our due diligence, so we're not reinventing the wheel. Like, and maybe start interviewing them. So I have a podcast called Common Grounding,
Yeah.
and it's kind of the perfect excuse to just. I mean, I don't even think anybody knows about it. Like, I haven't really pushed it or anything, but like I use it to just have an excuse to talk to people who are doing this kind of shit, because they're like, "Oh, you got a podcast? I'll talk to you for an hour."
Yeah.
So like that group that you were just talked about sounds like they'd be a great people to, ask about best practices and challenges. And like, so we're not having to reinvent everything.
Yeah. There's
what the
the first development I saw, 100 houses in Texas. They're selling them for $400,000. They're 3-bedroom, however many square foot houses, but it's a full, all 3D printed development.
Really?
Outside of, I think, Houston.
Wow.
So it's like CEO, serious construction companies that are on Wall Street, and working with the European Cobod, I think, is the printer that is most notorious in the world right now.
The Cobot?
COBOD. Yeah, Cobod. And then I just saw somebody, I can't think of it, but NASA just granted another printing company a bunch of money. They're trying to print on the moon and Mars and shit like that too. So,
wow.
nice.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I think as a business model itself, the 3D printing, we could make millions. Just start a 3D printing business and just do that. But obviously, we want to do more than that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The amount of business and money in innovation, it's endless. So just picking, like, hey, we're trying to build conscious communities. We want to educate. We want to give opportunity for, we'll call it affordable housing. Most of probably what you guys have been running into is the money thing, right? It's like, I want to build a house. I can't build a house. I don't have the money to build a house, or the time.
Or buy the lands.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the land. Yeah. So if we have to be able to present a collective that makes people feel comfortable, I've seen it. I call it the glue. There's got to be a glue. Most glues have religion behind it, or spirituality, or some sort of higher consciousness around it. You look at like Bhagwan up in Oregon, the whatever his community was up there that was thriving for a decade and then just fucking collapsed, and it was because of money, right?
Oh, the Osho community.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I've done a lot of thinking on this. There's a lot of eco villages out there, and I've visited a bunch of them and I've interviewed a bunch of them, and there's a flatness to it. It's just like, it's this idea of just community for community's sake, and it works, but it's not like there's something really missing. There's a vibrancy in that. And I think the glue that you're talking about is basically some kind of business model, really, to put it on like a capitalist term. But really, I think it's creativity for us. I mean, what we're talking about here is like,
Absolutely.
it's basically everyone who lives there is a creative of some sort. They're an artisan or whatever, and they want to participate in like a festival every year. You know, they want to either perform or they want to help set it up, or they like that's what is the glue of this one in Colorado.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm totally down. So.
And ultimately, I think the glue is, I mean, the soil, though, that's what was soil. The glue is like, hey,
That too, yeah. That's
talking about the children, like, we're running out of soil, like, for real. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like regenerative creativity. Yeah.
So I think so many people are passionate about the planet. So yeah, I think that's the glue.
For sure. So yeah, when I talk to my sort of business-oriented friends, they're like, "You're muddying the water too many. You got too many people involved. You're not going to make money." But I'm sort of approaching it on the other spectrum. The more people we get involved, I feel, the more we talk about these things, get the things out into the air about the community, about the glue, about the issues that are going to come up, like if we are open and receiving these issues now, we can sort of come up, Hristiyan, you got employees. I don't know, Gregory, if you have a business and employees, but you write an employee handbook, right? And you always got to add to it because you got the one person who's fucking around and, just kind of not so it's the same thing's gonna apply in a community. You're gonna be like, well, there's that one guy who keeps inviting his fucking uncle and he's not doing shit but causing problems on the property, So I want to be nice, but your uncle, he's fucking with our vibe here, man. So like that shit's gonna happen, and it's people are gonna be invested, and it's so
yeah. I mean, there's the healing process too. I mean, we're all damaged goods, really. So, like coming into community, people love the idea of it, but when it comes down to it, it's like, do you really want to do the work? Because it's work, it's healing, it's actually in some ways, I mean, especially Americans, we're so used to just having it our own way. We're so entitled and like the freedom, but
for sure,
if you want to get the economies of scale living in community and the support and all the the positives of it, there's some negatives with it, right? Like there's not as much freedom. There's more communication needed.
Yeah, and I just want to comment on that thing you said, Brian. I think 100% I agree that this whole old school mentality of we mudding the water, as you say, or like too many people. I think we don't have enough people. I think we need everyone that's aligned with this. That's the idea of DAO, right? So we come together because we, the people, have given up our power because of this divided thinking and this thinking of competition. This is not about competition. This is about coming together to fucking take care of each other and to be as one unit. Kind of like Joe Dispenza talked about this, kind of being like a school of fish or a flock of birds where they all move as one organism, and that actually protects them and makes them way stronger. Like if the predators want to take one fish out of the school, then that's how they catch it. But if they're one organism, they're way more protected. So that's my thinking.
The murmuration. Whoa, write it down.
Murmuration. I think there is something really there in that. I even noticed it in myself, like when I'm like doing my creative visualization of what I want to bring in. And like, it's easy to go into like, I want to make X amount per year. I want to have this. It's like the me, my thing. Like I want to have abundance in my life, in my for my daughter. And like, but then it's like, well, wait a minute. Like that's not actually going to be that much useful if everyone around me is in a bad place, right? Like if all of Skylar's friends and my family, and so that I keep on bringing it back. Abundance planetary abundance. Like that's what we really need to be shooting for. Is like how can we get not just abundance for ourselves, but abundance for as many people around us as possible. And it's a different way of thinking. It's not a capitalist American way of thinking.
Yes.
And it's yeah. I mean, I think it's vital though. Like without it, like this planet's going down.
100%.
Yeah, because what do you need money for if you could do everything you want to do? You have community, you have friends, there's resources. You got to travel. If you could have all these little villages around the world, they just want to go to Maui, go to the village in Maui. Want to go to the mountains, go to. So if you have everything you need, then resources are kind of.
And I think that so this guy that Melissa, there's a guy in Colorado he's into affordable housing and stuff, and he has some money, and we just had a conversation with him. She just did, and she's pitching this. He's been really interested in tiny house villages for a long time, and he's older. He seems kind of like a perfect person for this because he's not really about making big returns. He's really into like creating affordable housing for people. And he's kind of fallen in love with Melissa because they're in like an improv troupe. I was telling Melissa, I'm like, I can't think of a better place to meet a partner in like an improv troupe where the philosophy is yes and, right? And I think that's like, instead of looking at presenting something to VC, I don't think we really want VC really. I mean, I think maybe we can present something. We should explore it. But I think as a not-for-profit, we're actually looking for people who like already made their money. They're not really that concerned about making more money. They're maybe nearing, they're a little older, and they want to leave a legacy. They want to be known for something that resonates throughout the universe. And also maybe they want to actually be a part of a community. They're growing old, and maybe they don't have as much family as they would have liked. And they want to have like a kind of a family that's like that they can plug into. So they actually get access to these places, and there's a network of them, so they can go around. So they get the benefits of actually the product, but not so much focused on the actual financial return. So in a way, they're almost like granting funds into it in exchange for participation and legacy.
Absolutely. I love that. Let's just
Yeah.
continue to call those people our way because they're out there, and I am just honored and humbled by the speed of this. My wife and I have something written here. It was 2 years ago we started to talk about, for our family, we wanted to buy a property here in Sonoma and make it a collective space and a healing space for families to come together and just humans who are going and suffering. And it's just a place where you can drop in and you have people that are there to just listen or to help, or just, there's service work that needs done on the property, tending the land, tending like Austin was talking about. He likes to clean his sink now because he feels like he's tending what is his, and having that, just the speed of what is happening right now consciously in our world. Those people, they're going to show up right at the right time, right when we're ready. So what I'm trying to do right now, and this is part of it, is just build that foundation, right? We're structuring our foundation so that when we're ready and when the doors open, we're not just like, oh, we're ready, So
Yeah.
And I feel that way with you guys. I'm, like I said, super humbled to be on this call with you guys right now and be on this journey to take it to the next level, because it's right there. My brother in Des Moines has a nonprofit that's working with inner city youth, teaching them construction trades, giving them paid jobs, and remodeling homes in the hood of Des Moines. And we're, so that's another journey. Des Moines, Iowa. I have a serious network there of people that are hungry, man. I mean, they're not, well, there are literally hungry people there, and he serves food every Sunday, but literally hungry for the wisdom, hungry for the community, hungry for this connection, and I know you guys are running into the same people, the same type of people that are just like, I fucking love this idea. Yes. What do we have to do? And we're like, we're
We need
working
money.
on it.
That's
we're
great
trying to,
to know that your brother has a nonprofit, because that's another thing I was thinking this morning is like actually fiscally, because nonprofits can fiscally sponsor projects,
yeah,
and for a fee, right? They get a certain amount of it. And I was thinking, I was like, well, we could create our own nonprofit, but I'm like, wow, why don't we just find actually a good nonprofit, and then they get to benefit from fiscally sponsoring, so we're boosting them. And
yeah,
thing that I was thinking about, it's so weird you say this. I was just thinking about that, like youth at risk, or youth, like even like I was thinking about orphans and stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
I was like, wow, how cool if we create environments and we bring in like youth who don't have family or whatever, and we actually provide them with family and meaning and purpose and train
absolutely.
and a craft, and then set them out in the world, or maybe they go to any other number of the networks and they help build the network. I have this. There's a great story. This woman down in the Amazon who she did this. She would go and like find out where they were going to log next, and she would go and find all the medicinal plants and the endangered species, and they'd go and dig them up and then bring them back and cultivate them.
Oh, wow.
She would bring in youth at risk from the city, from the inner city, and she said that the first week or two was kind of rough. These kids are like, "What the fuck are we doing?" And they were kind of rebellious and they were hard, but then they pretty quickly got it. And she said they were the hardest working, most motivated, and grateful of like anybody she's ever worked with. Like they're just like, because they see it. They've gone from like a really hard, like scarce life, and then to see like the abundance, they really actually appreciate it in levels that other kids don't.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
It's all
Well,
right. It's all right there.
I'm totally fine with a nonprofit. Didn't Kristen and Bradley started one, or do you know what's going on with that? Or
I don't know.
Great.
All right, you guys. I just we're over a little bit over an hour, and I want to keep our time clear, so it's like we're always excited to meet instead of nebulousness of going to go and stuff.
Well, before we leave, what can we like have some action steps or any like concrete, or like how should we reconnect next week, or what's I want to leave with something like we're moving forward, not just get together and get excited.
The lowest hanging fruit probably is like figure out a day and time for us to continue this conversation, and then if this was just more of like a getting to know each other and brainstorm.
Absolutely.
But maybe we can set another day and time to continue the conversation and see what evolves from that.
Yeah, I'm completely game. I'd like to, I'm available mainly business hours while the kids are at school. Morning and afternoon, not as easy for me, but daytime, any day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Nice. Yeah. How is?
I don't know exact actions next. I can think of, business plans, business models, business, all of that stuff. I don't know how much time you guys want to dedicate to that. I'm not going to probably come up. I've got a lot of notes from a lot of shit. So I think just continuing the conversation will flesh out those action steps. We've done a lot of work. You guys have done a lot of work. You've actually been a part of Land Collaborative. You've got Soil DAO. You've got construction. We have the permaculture side of things, like how. So I think just keep meditating is the action on what we're all bringing together to the table, So and keep finding those other pieces, those other people, Like we need the land. Okay, we got the land. We need the money. Where's that money coming from? Is it soiled out? But how much money do we need? Christian, you're a builder. You got to put together budgets. I've been trying to figure out, like what are the costs, and obviously each project is different. So if you have some land ideas about there, like where can we start? Do we start with electricity. How are we going to get electricity? Do we start with water, well? Do we start with that? And then, okay, how many structures? What are the footprints of the structures? I just got turned on to this permaculture developer. He's been doing it for like 10 years. He's kind of the guru people call in after they've purchased land and they're like, fuck, we bought the wrong piece of land, And he's like, yeah, you're on the north facing slope instead of the south facing slope. You're too far away from the water. You're, got this tree in your zone that's this, and, So, like I said, I've got a lot of shit I want to share with you guys. I'm just in digestion mode right now, and also trying to fucking get ready for, end of year construction business, and also trying to find work. It's a little slower right now in construction for me than it has been. So, which I'm grateful for, and because I can breathe. I mean, I usually can't breathe.
Well, how does this same day next week work?
It's perfect for me.
Okay, that's on.
All right, cool. Maybe we'll get Hristiyan or Melissa on board.
Austin to come.
Yeah. Austin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Austin.
Do we want to
Austin too? Because he sounds like a pretty radical designer.
Yeah. Do we like to end our meetings with a little gratitude? You guys want to give 30 seconds? What are you grateful for?
Yeah. I'm grateful to have met you, Brian. I just feel like, Christians hear me say it all the time, but there's this I've heard this term, the harmonic convergence, like New Age movement. I never really understood what it meant, but I think I'm starting to understand a little bit. It's just all these people who have had the same vision, and we're all finding each other with complementary skills, and and also just life experience. So I'm very grateful for this call and meeting you, Brian.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm grateful for Goosebumps because that harmony and that vibe is totally ringing, man. It's so awesome to meet a couple brothers that are on this journey. We're feeling a lot, and I'm grateful for that feeling that is bringing us into this connection. So, and I'm just completely grateful for both of your guys' time. Grateful for my family and all that we're trying to build as a collective family in this community. So I'm excited.
Thank you guys. I'm grateful for synchronicities too. Just thinking how we met at the party. I think Gregory told me about this party and now the day of or something. I was like, I'm a big yes, and just so much has come. That one little event, opens up so many doors. And I don't know, it just feels more and more possible, less and less like a dream. So that I'm grateful for that feeling. So thank you guys. This is very, very awesome. And we'll talk next week.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
Gregory. Pleasure, man. Thanks, Hristiyan.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Till next time.
I just looked at 2 development projects yesterday, one on 9 acres and one on 11 up in Sonoma. So I'll keep you posted, man. I'm going to need help.
Okay, let me know, because, I'm... yeah, and I want to move out of the East Bay, so I'm looking up north, see what I can find. Awesome. Yeah.
And about my buddy in Maui, James, he's great. He's got a ton of ideas also. He is a native Maui, and I think he comes with a little bit of the island traditional vibe. I've had a sort of a little falling out with him because I hired him, and he kind of turned into
Maui vibe.
He's just going through. Yeah, he's going through
island time.
Yeah, he's going through his personal stuff, and he kind of took it out on me, and tried to blame me for a lot of shit, and I just don't like that. I just met the guy. I'm trying to help him, and he's trying to help me. So I'm in a mutual relationship, not a you did this to me and now I did this kind of, It's like, yo, bro, I'm not sure what's going on, but I love you. But I'll introduce you to him if you're there and you want to kick it, because he's got a whole line of ways of finding land in Maui and getting money from the USDA and doing the nonprofit stuff that Gregory was talking about, where you kind of sponsor another nonprofit and get money that way. He's got a nonprofit, so his intentions are great in there. I just think he's going through some personal turmoil right now and kind of unstable. And I think he might eat a lot of mushrooms. So just kind of don't know what you're going to get when you talk to him.
Okay, well, I haven't committed 100%, but I don't have plans for Christmas, and I got invited by some friends, and I'm like, well, that week between Christmas and New Year's, nothing's happening. So if I have, so I'll look at tickets today, unless they're crazy.
Yeah, right.
I'll probably go and connect with the communities there and see what happens.
Yeah, man. Again, the same thing's happening there. I've heard
exactly. So
people saying the same thing. So I talked to my lawyer the other day, and he fucking mentioned it. He's like, well, if you're because I talked to him about formation of corporations, and if I'm building this tech thing with James over in Maui, I was like, I don't know how to do this shit, and what he's like, well, I do. And he's like, what are you trying to do? And I told him about the 3D printing and the stuff, and he was like, we called it affordable housing, and he's like, wow. He's like, well, I can't say much, but if you get that up and running, like, I have plenty of people. And he's like, are you going anywhere besides California? I said, yeah, all over the place. And I mentioned Maui, and he was like, the M word is right in alignment with what's going on. So it's like, geez, it's just everywhere I'm turning right now. So it's amazing. It's really amazing. So
it's
if your
so
friends
potent.
if your friends in Colorado are ready to go, I think Austin, if he's going to be the design guru, get some photos, get some topo, I don't know if you need a survey or something, but what's the next steps, for the physical to get off the ground, at least design, because we need a design to build something. So I'm just going to start.
Yeah, so
what's your email?
I guess I have so many emails. I think for this stuff, I have sold out now. I'll text it to you at Gmail. And Gregory also has access to that email, and I think it'll be a good place.
Because I got a ton of shit. Like I said, man, I'm gonna just start sending it whenever I can remember to send it.
Austin.
Now?
Yeah,
okay.
Austin actually went. He's from Colorado, so he was there for Thanksgiving to see family. He drove down to see the land. So,
wow.
And I have a friend of mine that has a drone. Apparently, there's apps where you could just program the drone to go and map out it flies by itself and takes pictures, and then you could send that video to a place, and they'll do a topographical map of the area.
Wow. It's like Matterport or something.
Yeah, so I'm thinking he actually happened to have a little plane, and he loves to fly. So I was like, well, you want to fly to Colorado to take so I might go next week to just do that, 3D, do that drone footage, because that's what we need. If we have the layout of the land and be like, this is the village, this is where the maker's place is going to be, this is where the festival place is going to be, and so we have an actual layout of what's needed. they'll be easy to get money. And if Austin can do all that, then it seems pretty essential to get.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I just keep pushing forward like it's all going to happen.
Yes. There's this Rumi. What is this Rumi poem? Live life as if it Rick in your favor.
Nice. I love it, man. Well, I got to take this call. I got a couple calls I got to get back to, but I'm super stoked. Thank you so much for holding this space and making this happen. So let's keep going.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
I'll keep looking for a place here in Sonoma too.
Okay, awesome. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, brother. Much love.
Bye.